Hello, I'm Dennis Mullen here in the GeoLearn studios to bring you the third part of this overall course on the subdivision of fractional sections. This is tutorial 3 or segment 3, part 3, or whatever you want to call it. And as we discuss these subjects of fractional sections, let's remember, what have we done so far? So far, we have we defined fractional sections, and that took us an entire segment. And then we decided, okay, now let's see what the law is, and how does the math work with that law, and then how do we apply it? And we looked at several different ways of how we apply it and saw that there might be a little bit of gray area there in some of that. So now we move on to this third part here, and what we're going to do is, first of all, set an objective. Our objective is very simple. We're going to understand how completion and extension surveys create fractional sections. What you and I were looking at in the other portions of this course were fractional sections that were created because the rectangular system came up against a body of water or a land grant or some non-rectangular entity of some sort, and we saw how we could get fractional sections sometimes not, water boundaries, those issues. That's what we were mainly looking at. Now we're going to look at some more complicated things where we have extension and completion surveys. We'll define those here in a few minutes, because they create fractional sections in places you might not expect it at all. And for those of you that are in really older public land states, it's pretty rare that you would come across this. But if you work in multiple states, you're going to see these things, and it's good to have an overall understanding of this subject. So that's our objective. Now, I want to go on to a lesson from the U.S. Supreme Court. And there's a picture of the Supreme Court, and beautiful building, beautiful place, a lot of amazing history there, and a lot of history yet to be made there. What we're going to do is look at Cragen versus Powell. Now, this is actually a case I use in a number of other subjects. And if you've ever taken an ethics class from me, you've seen me talk about this case because of the ethical issues with Surveyor Powell. But I just want to focus in for a moment on this case and talk about it so that we can see how it deals with the record and the plat and the returns and all of those things put together. Now, in Cragen versus Powell, it's not that difficult or complex of a case, but the bottom line with the case was Mr. Cragen owned some land over here, and he hired a surveyor named Powell. Powell couldn't find any evidence near Mr. Cragen's land, and so he went 5 miles to the east, found a corner, and ran a record-bearing distance back. That's not a very good idea, because that's what you and I nowadays call the 1320 Club.